afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our presentation. I'd like to start by introducing our data team. We have Pete, we have Kate, we have Julian, we have Alex, and we have Hannah, and as you can see from the picture up there, Pete had a lot more hair before we started project weeks. The Data Tripper is a cross-platform app built for tourists wanting to plan a day out. The inspiration for the Data Tripper app came from our realisation of how much we rely on mobile phones when we're around and about, when we're looking to navigate to and around new places. The problem we found was that when you're trying to do that, you're navigating between different sites, you're looking at the website of the place you want to go to, and then you're trying to go to a map. We wanted to put that all into one place. So, we were looking for our app to be, it's a travel app, but which might not seem like a particularly novel idea, but we found that a lot of the travel apps that are out there were very broad in scope, and we wanted to make it something a lot more personalised, a lot more focused. So, the notion of our app was for planning, personalising and managing your whole day and helping the user to select and then find destinations from the itinerary that they've built and then be able to go and follow that itinerary on a map to find out what places that they're visiting and get them to where they needed to go. So, Kate and I will now tell you a little bit more about how the app itself works.
The user begins on the home page where they can sign up or log in if you already have an account.
If the username is not already in the database, it takes them to the account setup page which takes key information from them. This then takes them to the preference page where they can select the type of thing they would like to do.
The next stage, as you can see from our centre slide there, is to generate a location, put a location in and plan the trip. The app will generate a selection of choices based on user preferences. If those preferences don't appeal, you can then choose to generate some new selections. And as you might have noticed from the very quick demo that we ran through there, that you can select again and again and again. And that was in fact because Kate and Julian didn't want to get wet in our glorious weather that we've been having over the last few days as they planned the app, so they wanted a nearby destination. When the user's happy with the destination that they've got, they can then go to the map part of our app and they can actually choose which location they want to visit first.
Once on the map page, the user can see the current location along with the marker pins for each destination. The user can then tap on the pin, which will then show the information for each destination. When the user decides where they want to go first, they can tap on the place name in the call-out, which will render a map line to follow.
The user can then, as you can see from the two slides there, they can follow a top-down view of the map, if that's easiest for them, or they can click again and they can view a more street scene kind of look to the map to help them to navigate to where they want to go. Once they begin moving, they will have a distance from their location will appear on the bottom of the screen. When they get to within 50 metres of their destination, they have a button pop up which allows them to check in. That will change the colour of the marker so they know that place is somewhere that they've already visited, and that will then allow them to move on to their next destination when they've visited and they're ready to move on and try somewhere new. We'll now hand over to Hannah and Pete, who will talk about the front-end tech stack.
So from the very beginning, we were all very eager to push ourselves and challenge ourselves. This whole thing has been one big challenge. We've learnt new technologies from start to finish, so we thought, why stop now? So we decided to take on the huge challenge of building the entire thing with completely new technologies, which we've taught ourselves from the ground up. We did the front end in Node, using React Native and Expo. We use third-party libraries such as React Native Elements and GeoLibs, along with the Google Maps API.
Thanks very much. Let me start by saying I do not know why I've wore this jacket. It's warm. So the front end, we started with React Native, and as soon as we went to documentation of React Native, the first thing it prompts you to do is look at Expo. So we looked at Expo and we found out that this is like an open source tool chain, and it allows you to do cross-platform apps. So we could do one for iOS and we could do one for Android. Also, we could program in JavaScript and React, which helped a little bit, just having a bit of familiarity going into this new field. React navigation. From previous projects, we knew that this was something that needed to be handled, so we wanted to use React navigation We wanted to use React navigation for the user flow. And basically, this is explain the user's journey through our app, each page at a time. The Google Directions API, that was to get the user's location and the destination for the route. Then we had some third-party libraries, GeoLib, which is very important for our app. basically what GeoLib did, it estimated the meters from the person's location to that destination. And the reason we needed it is when they got in within 10 metres of that destination, they was able to click that they got there and then reroute to another location from there. React Native Maps, without this, we wouldn't have an app, so thank you for that library. We could put on iOS, it would use the Apple Maps on iOS, and on Android, it would use Apple Maps. So we needed to integrate this into our app. React Native elements, when we was looking at design options, React Native, you'll know, when you're using the basic components of any sort of software, it's good to venture out into third party to sort of get a little bit more of a design. So we could experiment with that. And last but not least is Mapbox and Polyline. Basically what this does is all the information we get back from the Google directions, it gets it and it decodes it so we can get that route, that lovely polyline that you get when you go, what's the directions to this, and it gets the route for the user right up to them directions. I'm now going to pass you over to Alex to explain the back end. Thanks very much.
So yeah, from the word go, we knew we wanted to make our whole back end using Amazon Web Services, and this was for two reasons really. I think the first one is we wanted to do it completely, like Hannah mentioned, just learn something we haven't learned in Northcoders. Pretty much all of this stack is new apart from, the assertion library, Chai, and the testing suite and Node. So that was a really big challenge. And the second one is there's a lot of gravity in the tech industry moving towards cloud-based infrastructure and cloud services. So it seemed like the natural thing to do to use AWS. So it was it wasn't easy. We had to learn how to use each individual Amazon Web Service and how to integrate all these things into each other. And then after we did that, we used a framework called serverless to basically make the deployment process a lot more efficient. And Julian's going to touch on that in a bit. And finally, we used the Triposo API to get all the information which was sent to the front end and then used to display all the maps and whatnot. So in terms of deployment, I won't delve too deep into it, but effectively we write the code locally on our machine using Node and serverless. That then deploys using AWS CloudFormation, which then provisions all the services onto S3, Lambda, DynamoDB, and API Gateway. And the way the user interacts with the API is they'll go on the phone, they'll use Daytripper, they'll get the user information, or they'll make a call to the Triposo API. That'll trigger an endpoint on AWS API Gateway, which will then trigger a Lambda function, which will then either go to the database to get the user information, or it'll go to Triposo to get the Triposo information. And everything that happens in a Lambda function is stored within CloudWatch. That'll tally up the amount of time the Lambda took to compute, which then is used to calculate the cost of the Lambda function. And I'm going to pass you on to Julian and Pete that are going to talk about the challenges we faced during the project.
Thank you, Alex. So, with AWS, one of our main challenges was narrowing down which services we wanted to use, because there's hundreds on there that you can choose from. And once we had figured out which ones we needed to build our app, we needed to find out how to start actually learning how to use them. Luckily, the Amazon docs are really good, so we learned how to do the basics pretty quickly. And then serverless helped us with a lot of the process because it helps us pull everything together into one program. But we did have to teach ourselves how to write YAML to do that, which was not very easy and doesn't make a lot of sense. If you notice, it doesn't have any brackets, which is just wrong. The next thing that was hard about it was everything's cloud-based, and at the beginning, we didn't realize that you could test it offline. So every time we made any changes to our code, we were redeploying to the cloud to test it manually, which took a long time. We did eventually, or pretty quickly, learn how to use it in Mocha and Chai, which saved a lot of time for testing it. One of the main problems we had was with DynamoDB, which was just unlike anything else we'd used before in databases. We thought it was going to be a lot like Mongo, but it turns out it wasn't. So we managed to get it up and running really quickly for the basic end of it, but as soon as we got the more complicated demands, it was a lot harder to use. Which leads on to the next thing, was that deciding our MVP was, when we started, we had quite a clear vision about what we wanted to build, But because we didn't know the tech, we found out that when we started building it, it was a lot more complicated than we thought. And we had to change a few little things just to make it all work when we learned how the tech works in terms of the strengths and weaknesses of all the different libraries we were using. For example, at the beginning, we wanted to have one route for the entire journey for the user. So they'd say where they were going, and it would plot the route between each different location. But we realized that would be a lot better for the user in the end if they could choose which locations they were going to in what order they were doing it in. And I want to Pete for his part.
Thanks very much. As you can see, I'm learning, no jacket. So when we were in the front end, we sort of took notes and successfully clues. And in previous presentations, we found out that navigation would be a crux for us, and so would maps. So we made sure that these two challenges were implemented before the actual phase started. Like a day, the weekend, we all worked on it together, made sure that we had a good foundation, a good base going forward. Know your API. For all you guys coming into project phase now, you know the limitations of your API. You're going to get a lot of information back from these APIs. And being a good software developer and a good team, deciding the decisions on what you want back and how you're going to manipulate that for your app is very important to your outcome. Third-party libraries and documentation. I'd like to just reference Paul C there at the back. Documentation doesn't always give you exactly what you need, but the good thing about it gives you an indication of where you could go with it, and it's up to a team to keep that confined, because you can go all around the houses with it. So like the FFD up there, function, feature and design, choosing what's important in the app. So functionality is always got to be key. Get that MVP done by that Monday. That's always the key. You can spend at least 4 or 5 hours doing on something that's a feature or something that's a design. So it's just you as a team to define, okay, this morning we're going to spend doing this morning, and bringing that together, that's part of the challenge. So documentation, we spent at least 2 days looking at these apps in depth, these documentation in depth. So we looked at React and we looked at React navigation. But the biggest thing for me is, as you know, everybody here, you go through this beautiful journey that is Northcoders, and managing a project is not easy. But it's about everything you've learned from day one to now. People are 10 weeks deep. There's other people that 16. I'm here. This is my 16th week. I'm sorry for that, guys. But yeah, it's bringing that all together. It's just pieces of a jigsaw puzzle. And how's that going to fit? Your last piece is that project. So you've got to come together as a team and make that work. And staying focused and staying on track, that's how we did it. And I'm blessed to have a team like these, and I'm very thankful that Northcoders give us this chance. I'm going to pass you over to Hannah, Kate, Alex and Julian just to tell you about what we've learned.
Thank you. So the most important thing we learned was just how good paired programming actually is. I think we all found it really annoying at the beginning of the course when we were learning how to do it. But during project, we found out that it's just an amazing way to reinforce your learning. If you've got somebody sat next to you who's trying to learn the same things as you are, it's great to be able to talk to them about everything, and they will help you understand things and you will help them understand things. And they also stop you making all the stupid mistakes that you always make with typos that will take you hours to solve and debug. And they also are there to help you with your frustration. When you think you can't do it, when you think it's completely impossible and you're not going to manage to get it done on time, to have somebody sat next to you who knows that you can do it and will tell you that you can do it just helps you immensely.
I think one of the most important things when you're undertaking a big group project like this is daily stand-ups, because obviously, well, we worked in pairs, so everyone's doing different things, and it's a great way to start the day and know what page everyone's on, so you're not stepping on each other's toes. And also I know what it's like 2 weeks ago. It's get add all, get commit, get push, and you're done. You can't do that on a project. You have to really focus on what branches you're on, how your workflow's going, so you're not conflicting with anyone else, and then merge all your code when you're finished. Okay.
We also learned that organisation is key in managing a project effectively, so we use Trello to plan, communicate and keep track of all the elements of the front and back end as they progressed.
I think one of the main things about working in such a big group is your teamwork. You need to be able to work together and delegate jobs, make sure that everyone's utilising what they're good at and ask each other for help. This is what we're here for. We're here to learn. We're all on the same page. So if there's something you're not quite getting, chances are somebody around you will be able to help you. So use that. sometimes, like, I know all of us at one point have sat there staring at a screen thinking, what have I gone wrong? And it could be something as small as a bracket and you can't see it yourself. And all it will take is 5-minute break, go downstairs, have a little breather, go outside, get some fresh air, come back in, and you'll spot it straight away. Maybe not straight away, but you'll see it soon enough. And lastly, enjoy yourself, enjoy the team, enjoy the project, and have faith in what you're doing, because if we'd have said 12 weeks ago that we were going to create something like this, I don't think any of us would have quite believed it. But the fact is we have, and we're all capable of doing it. So just have faith in what you're making and enjoy it. And last but not least, make friends with your team and make friends with your coffee machine. Any questions? Woo!